Howdy folks, and welcome to 15 Nautical Mile Arc. Today we are back in the FlyJSim 727 version 2, and today we're flying the 200 advanced version of that aircraft. Last time we flew the 100, and this time it's the 200 advanced. We are in Minneapolis, and the jetway is on the wrong side of our parking, and that's because I'm using a freeware Minneapolis airport, and there's a lot of mistakes. I just haven't gotten around to building my own version yet for the gateway. I talk about it every time I fly out of here, just haven't gotten to it. It's a big project. And today we are going to fly from Minneapolis to Chicago, and it's a big deal for me because I've always been too intimidated to do this flight in the simulator despite simulating for about 12 to 13 years. And the reason for that is because in real life, if you take a flight out of Minneapolis, you probably go to Chicago first. Now, there are more direct flights every year that go other places, but for the most part, and if you've been flying since the 80s or 90s, or 70s, I guess, you always fly to Chicago, or you always have flown to Chicago. So I've just been too intimidated to do this in the sim because I do it in real life so much. But it dawned on me the other day that if I can land at any other airport, and especially strange ones like Pullman, where you have a very short final and you're coming down steeper than normal and it's windy and everything that you guys saw in the other video we did with this aircraft. If I can do that, then I should probably be able to do an approach and landing at Chicago with up to 28 nautical mile approach if I wanted to. I could even auto land if I wanted to. So I thought I'd get over my silly hang-ups and just fly this route. And I am flying with clear skies, no real world weather today because there are particular runways I want to use for nostalgic reasons. I didn't want to fight the wind, so I'll talk about that as we are taxiing. So you can tell the lights are on in this plane because I do have external power turned on, and yes, my frame rates are crappy because of the Minneapolis area freeware add-ons I have are total frame rate killers. But I promise you, once we get off the ground, my frame rates will shoot back into the 40s or whatever it's been. I can never remember. I don't fly with the counter on. So let's hop inside. You do hear sound, and that's because I have external power turned on, like I said. I am going to go through my own little checklist. Oh, I also turned on interior lights ahead of time just because I could, and that's kind of what external power is for, as well as boarding. So I am going to go through my own checklist. I've said before that this aircraft does have a checklist you can use. That's the bare minimum to get this going, but there's a lot more you can play with. So I've taken this checklist plus other people's videos plus the actual Boeing manual, and I've come up with my own checklist to suit how I fly. And if you want to see the differences between versions 1 and 2, you can look them up. Differences between how I fly from 1 and 2, I just click more buttons, and autopilot's a little different for me, but otherwise it's just not that much different for me. So first thing we need to do is we need to get our passengers set up as well as our fuel and cargo. Now we are going to make this a relatively full flight because pretty much every flight to Chicago is full these days. And the first flight each day is around 7 a.m. I believe. I wanted it dark for this flight because sometimes of the year it is dark at 7 or so in the morning. However, in this case, I think it's like 4:30 or something to get it this dark in the sim this time of year, but that's fine. Fuel, 347 nautical miles. We're going to go about 450 in fuel. That'll get us to an alternate airport if we need to. Or, because I'm a chicken, and I like having extra distance in my fuel, so there's 451 there. And I'm just curious about that clock. What time does it say it is? It says it is 5:35 in the morning. We'll pretend it's 7 something like it would be in real life in the late fall or something. Alright, we're going to come back up here. We are going to turn the battery on. That'll get things going for us. It also made the sounds a little softer, which is nice. We're going to go back here. We're going to get our APU started. I don't know if you have to trip it first, but a lot of people do. So I do as well. The light should turn on somewhere here. There we go. Then, oh, this is very... Oh my gosh, is this really going to do that? Okay, so we hold it for 3 seconds, takes a while to start. I'll speed up the process through the magic of video editing, of course. Alright, we're about warmed up, that's good. So we will close field first, close field first, and then generator, and that should turn off our external power, and it does. So now we can do our first stages of lighting here. We'll turn on our strobe and our beacon and our wing. Oops, not wing. Our logo lights. There we go. And I already set up my gauge lighting and everything, and I played with all these, and it's really cool what you can do. Anything you like. Alright, so now we need to arm that. Alright, and what is next? Stall warning is way up here. Test that a little bit. Hopefully we don't hear that because stalls are nearly impossible to get out of in this aircraft. And this will turn off later. And window heat comes on now as well. And then we got to come back up here and do our APU bleed. Some people do both, some people just do the right one. I'm going to do both because that's what I've done in version 1. Cooling doors should already be open, and they are. And now we're going to disconnect our ground power and our air cart, and everything should stay running, and it is. That's good. Sometimes I bump keys and stuff and things turn off. I don't realize what I've done. So DC meter essential something. I don't know what that means. Gas or fan turn on so we can get some cold air in here. We'll turn on the right AC pack so our passengers don't get stifled. We're going to fly at 30,000. Let's do 29,000. Then we're still slant alpha. Always we're technically slant whiskey. So let's do 29,000. Plus this aircraft climbs so slowly, we would never get much higher than this before we have to come down anyway. So let's do that. Our landing altitude, I wrote it down. I think I wrote it down. I did not. It's 835 in Minneapolis, so let's say it's like 680 in Chicago. Whoops, not 1,000. 100. Alright, 60, 70, 80. That's set to ground. And then I talk about this every time. In this version, people have been turning this one pump on while they set their radios. Other people turn them all on. I'm going to look into that because right now I really have no idea. We are going to get the no smoking and seatbelt signs on for our passengers who are boarding so they don't smoke. They might think they're in an old plane they can smoke, even though they haven't been able to smoke in planes for decades or more, I think. Alright, let's see. Let's turn that up a little bit. Alright, so what are we doing now? Flight plan. First of all, we're going to set our cruising altitude, our departure altitude. We'll go right to 10,000. I think it's like 5,000, 8,000, 12,000, and then cruising, except this thing climbs so slowly we'll never get there. If we had air traffic control, they would clear us higher before we'd even get to those. So we're just going to go right to 10,000 so I can manage the aircraft a little bit and pick up speed. So we are flying VOR to VOR. When I went to Pullman in this thing, I went DME. So I would tune a radio, fly a certain DME, and then switch radios. Except the distances on the charts versus what the sim does are never the same. So what I did for this practice flight, and what I'm going to do today, is I'm actually going to tune VOR 2 or DME 2 ahead, and when we pick it up, I'll know I can change. So that's technically not correct because we'll be strained from airways a little bit, but I just wanted to try it this way. I probably won't do it this way again. I'll probably do it more accurately in the future, but I just wanted to try something different. So the first thing I'm going to do, though, is tune our final VOR to 113.9, which is still there for my practice flight. And that's for our approach. And I'll talk about our approach once we're in the air, because I had to make up my approach. So there's no VOR approach published anymore for Chicago. And we do not have air traffic control to give us vectors, so I had to make up my own. I'll explain it later. So our first departure VOR is going to be 115.3. Faster to go this way, I think. 115.3, and then right after that we'll be going to 117.9er. And then once we pick up 112.8, oh no, I can switch this, or I can switch this back. You'll see how that works later. It's 2 steps ahead over here. So 115.3, and then we'll switch 117.9, and then once we pick up 112.8, we'll switch just to 112.8, etc., etc. So that's all we need to do here. Autopilot we'll take care of later. So we're going to come up here now, and our departure, well, our departure will be runway heading for a little bit, which will be 170 degrees. We're going to take off on runway 17, which I'll explain why as we're taxiing. So there is 71, there's 70, and then this needs to be 126 for a very short amount of time. And then we'll actually be going over to the next VOR for a 76-mile jaunt, I believe it is, nautical mile. So, whoops, I read the second one. The first one, 126. There we go. I already have that set. Yeah, we're good to go for now with flight plan. And the rest of the flight plan is while we're flying. I do not use FMC, one because I want to use slant alpha, and two because it crashes my recording software, so I don't even bother. Alright, where are we? Alright, now I got to turn on the rest of the fuel pumps, which I was talking about. Why would we do it this way? I don't know. So I'm going to do some research at some point. And that Cinema Verte is really bouncing my camera around today. Alright, second page of my checklist. Now we got to close these cooling doors. And as I've said before, whoops, wrong one. Here. And as I've said before, there is a time we're supposed to open them, but because this is a 3-person aircraft and there's only me, I, as well as others who fly this, never worry about when to open these. It's just, it doesn't really do much in the sim, and it's just too much to fly while you're looking back here. So I don't know when you open them, I just know you do at some point. So they are closed. There we go, I did a good job stalling the conversation. So now we need to turn the packs off, or else we won't have enough power to start. We're going to open up all the air bleeds, and now we are ready to begin pushback and start engine. So pushback in this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. You actually call your ground crew, and you come out here, and you can hear that APU running. We come out here and we hit ghost, and then we tell it what we want to do, and we want to go back, and there's our line there, so it's going to taxi there. We hit take a parking brake off and hit auto, and we're going to start taxiing, and now we can start our engines just like you would in real life while you're taxiing. Haven't been able to do that before, so we'll turn that on. We'll do 2, 3, 1 today. When N2 gets to 25, we'll introduce power. There's 20, 22, 23, 24. By the time we get down here, there's 25. There we go. We'll come back up here. As soon as we hear this click, we'll start the next one. There we go. What that clicking is the switch here going from ground to off. I never switch those to flights, neither does anybody else. I'm not too worried about it. I guess that's something else I can add on my to-do list to look up. Maybe they're on flight now. I'm just curious. Nope, it's on off. Alright, oh, we're at 25 already because I was so busy talking, so let's go to 3, and then we'll come up here and start engine 1 once we hear that click. There it goes. Start 1. We could also wait until the pressure lights go up before we start the next engine. I guess that would be more accurate, but to be honest, if you can't tell by my voice, in real life I'm kind of on a time crunch today. This is a long flight, including starting the aircraft. I want to get this flight done. I've been so excited about this for a couple weeks now that I want to get it done, so I'm just trying to shave off seconds anywhere I can. So there's 22, 24, and 25, and that is started up. Alright. So now we'll come back here and we'll turn on all of our hydraulics. By the way, you can't push back with hydraulic B on, so we better make sure we're done pushing back, and we are. I usually line up about the same time pushback is done. In fact, sometimes I'll watch it push back between engine starts, which I guess I could have done, but that's okay. Can't remember everything every single time if I'm doing this by myself in a 3-person craft. Alright, now we're going to come up here and we're going to close all of our gen ties, and the difference between 1 and 2 is you have to do all of them now, where before you could just do the top and it'll close them all. Alright, now we can turn AC packs back on so our passengers can be more comfortable. Our cargo heat can go to normal at this time, and essential powers now can go to, where is it, right here, generator, and that should stay on bus tie, and it is. Make sure there are no lights on, and we have no lights on except that one. That'll turn off once you get going. Alright, and fuel heat should be off, which it always is, but you should check it anyway. And now we'll come back over here, and we would do anti-ice at this time, which I haven't quite figured out yet, so we're not going to do that, and we'll turn our pitot heat off though. And now we can come back here and we can turn off our APU because our engines are running. I see people trip it first, and you hear it wind down. And that scares me every time because I think I did something wrong. Let's change that to flight. It's kind of a cool morning, so let's warm it up a little bit. Let's turn our Gasper fan off, and let's close APU and bleed 2. Alright, then we come back up here and we check our speed bugs and everything, make sure we're aware of what we're going to do. Alright, flaps are at 20. I'm going to move that over. And 121. And 121, yada yada yada. That's pretty simple. Then we land, and then that'll change. That'll go down as we fly, obviously. We're still a little heavy at the moment because we're full of fuel for the distance we're flying. Alright, then we come down here. We can turn on this guy. If we had real world weather, this would actually pick up weather. And if we had traffic, we could turn that on, but I don't fly with traffic because you just end up sitting and waiting all the time. Alright, so now we're going to come up here. We're getting ready for our taxi. We'll turn on our taxi lights. And we'll turn to rejected takeoff. And flaps will come down as we're taxiing, and 20 is what's going to look like from my angle. It's just past, it's about 4 o'clock or so. Alright, just want to check that out. Alright, let's see here. We'll wait till under runway, and then I'll do some autopilot stuff. And everything else. So let's get taxiing. I'm actually going to taxi from the outside because I just like the way it looks, although I would like to do some wing views. We'll see if I can. So right, we'll take out the parking brake, introduce fuel, introduce throttle, start introducing some flaps as well. And why runway 17? Well, because that's kind of what see my button doesn't always let go of the parking brake. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, why runway 17? It's because in real life they've been using runway 17 a lot lately, because when they were using the other long runway, which is 4 in one direction and then 180 more than that in the other direction, the FAA realized if one airplane is doing a missed approach, the other could crash into them when they're taking off. So they're not allowed to use both runways at the same time. So they've just been using runway 17. Even the 17, yeah. Even the 777s are taking off on runway 17 these days, even though it's a very short runway compared to the other options. But when the wind is blowing, you gotta go into the wind, or else the ground speed has to be atrociously higher. So that is the reason for that, and that's why I want to take this runway, because it's what they're using in real life most of the time. And when I went here to watch airplanes take off and land with my kids a couple months back, we couldn't see anything because they're using runway 17, and the cool looking lookout area they made is right here. And runway 17 is way back there. So, and they were landing way over here, so we didn't get to see anything. My poor kids are so bored. Plus, being the size of the airport this is, everything taking off and landing is a Airbus 321 or 737. So, you've seen one plane, the kids think they're all the same. Nothing unusual the day we were there. Alright, I am just going to taxi through here, and I will see you at runway 17. Alright, we're crossing 12 right, and I'm kind of all over the place here because my rudder paddles stick, I discovered the other day. And I'll go one way and let go, and then they don't return to center. So I'm not exactly sure what to do about that. I'll have to look at the mechanics of my yoke here. See, there they go again. I push one way and they stay there, they don't come back. Alright, well, we're almost ready to turn towards runway 17 here. There's 494 and 77 in the background. That reminds me, I was gonna turn down the number of cars just to get some frame rates back in these awful scenery areas, but I forgot. So we're just dealing with low frames right now. Alright, we're coming up on runway 17, and if you look at the near background, you'll see Highway 77. And those buildings in the tall buildings in the background on the left is not Minneapolis. It's some tall hotels along 494 in the Edina and Bloomington areas. Alright, we'll actually pull onto the runway here, and then we will set up our final autopilot and check things, and we will get out of here. I also like this runway because a couple years ago as I was driving southbound on Highway 77, a 747 took off from this runway and immediately banked sharply to the right. So all of a sudden, here comes this gigantic plane around this building. Quite startling, and I swear the wingtip was 20 feet above the highway. Of course it was more than that, but it seemed like it was 20 feet above the highway, and it was amazingly startling and amazing to see. I could see the pilots' faces. It was so cool. I also thought it was strange they were banking that quickly, but they were. Alright, let's set the parking brake a second. There, it worked that time. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to turn that on to heading and make sure this pitch is quite high so we don't get a train alert, but not quite 2 notches up. And everything is set, so we're going to go out runway heading for a second, and then we're going to bank left, catch this stuff, and then we will start flying slant alpha. Alright, everything else is on that we need. So, we do not take off full power. We take off 97% N1, and then we'll reduce to 92%. Stay at 250 knots until we reach 10,000 feet. Then we increase our climb speed to 280 knots. And once we get to about 29,000 feet, it'll be about time to come down already. But anyway, here we go, I think. I don't know why I'm so nervous about this. I'm normally not nervous anymore. But take off the parking brake, hold the brakes, give us some throttle until we're established and steady. I think I'm just taking this way too seriously. That's my problem. Release the brakes. And away we go. We don't want to exceed 97% N1. There's about 96, 97 is about there. Good enough. Alright, yeah, I see my paddles stick. So I'm constantly having to move back and forth here. I also notice this paddle sticking because I was not coordinated in a smaller aircraft the other day. But anyway, I guess I gotta focus on this plane right now. Alright. Why is our V speed suddenly so much higher than it was before? What is going on there? You guys see that? Something strange is going on. Anyway, let's take off. Positive rate, gear up. First set of flaps in. Yeah, that was not normal. Alright, here we go. That was the most unusual takeoff I've ever had. Alright, autopilot engaged. Let's come down here and do Alt select. Alt select. There we go. I can let go, just managing flaps. Flaps are in. Use our flight director now to gain altitude. And reduce our throttle a little bit. Let's turn left towards our VOR. Come down here and check out our N1. There's 92, and I want to check this V card. 136, flaps 5, 10, 15, 20. I see what happened. I was so busy yakking away, I didn't check my flaps, and we flew off at flap 5. Okay, well, that's completely ridiculous on my part. Anyway, we're just gonna fly to 10,000 at 250, and then we'll deal with everything else there. Alright, we'll turn this off here. We'll keep the landing lights on a little bit. And auto brakes can come off. Let's have a look at the city here while we're still climbing. There we go, you can see Minneapolis in the background. and St. Paul at the same time. So there's downtown Holman, which we'll be flying out of soon for a different flight. Downtown St. Paul, downtown Minneapolis, and there's KMSP. And a lot of traffic. I can definitely turn down some of this car traffic. That'll help with frame rates a ton as well. We got Crystal Airport out there, and we've got Kane right there. Mississippi and Minnesota rivers coming together. This is Wisconsin already. St. Croix, Minnesota. Alright, looking pretty. The sun is kind of floating before it takes off, but let's hop back inside and manage all this stuff. So we're about to intersect our VOR. So we're about ready to switch over to VOR lock. If you do it too soon, it'll curve left and right. You do it too late, it'll go right and miss it. Let's do it right about now. Nav lock. Alright. There we go. Now we'll just bank right like we need to. And we're at 8,000 feet, 9,000 feet. We're coming up on our altitude. We're about ready to climb to 10,000. And I'm actually going to use IAS hold once we get to 10,000, which we are about are now. So we'll let this settle in at 10,000 to get speed. In fact, what I'm going to do, I'm going to move this to 280 right now. I was going to climb at 250 knots, but I wanted to get there sooner. So it's going to level off now. And I'm going to bump this up to 29,000 feet. And once that hits closer to that, I will then do IS hold and Alt select. But I don't want to do too soon because it'll dip down and then go up again. So we're coming up on there now. Alright, so about the time I get down here, Alt select, IS hold, nav lock. Now we should start climbing, and we are. We're going to stay at 280. We're going to climb. We're going to come up here and turn off our landing lights now because we're over 10,000 feet. I'm going to just come back over here and make sure my engines are still good. Exactly around 92.5. Let's say that's good enough. If you come back here, what you're watching for is you don't want your oil temperature to get to the red. Too much N1 in this aircraft, the way it's modeled, this will go into the red and then you start on fire. That's how your fires start in this thing. So we are going to, in a moment, set up our next VOR. And I already know VOR 2 is in range just because I know that. So we're going to do that now, so we'll fly over the river and it'll look really pretty. So first thing we're going to do is come down here and hold our heading. Like that. We're going to come down here and we'll do heading hold. And then we'll come over here and do 117.9 and get the next one ready while we're down here. So what was it, 112.8? There's 112.8, but we're going to 117.9. And then we're going to do what is a 132. And we'll actually move this left a little bit so we're heading more towards it a little more aggressively. That'll bring us over the river. And basically we're just going to follow the river quite a ways. And that'll be some great scenery. See, we're 71 miles from the next waypoint. So, actually it's not a waypoint, it's a VOR. But once we're established here, we'll do some scenery shots, and then we will talk about the approach. Actually, we'll talk about the approach and do some sightseeing, and then I'll be off voice for a while. And I'll just have background music as we fly, and I switch VORs and stuff like that. So that's a really cool shot. Let's look out the wing for a second. Looking nice. We're already in Wisconsin. Just like that. A lot of nothing to see, though. It is a pretty drive, though. If you were to drive through Wisconsin, it's underrated how beautiful it is. We're going to be a little more aggressive on this. I could pick up the VOR lock now because it tells me so here, but then we'll really turn left and right. I want to be somewhat comfortable for our riders. How pretty is that? And the cirrus clouds way up there, about 35,000 feet or so. Alright, we will now intercept with our VOR. It will turn left a little bit, but not much. Alright. So what we're looking for now, 112.80, 112.80. When this gets picked up here, when this spins around, I will know we can tune the next VOR on our instruments, because again, the DME I did not calculate. So we're just going to climb for a while. Our engines are still looking good, I believe. Yes, they are. Everything's looking good back here. Looking at hydraulics, looking at oil temp, looking at fuel. I don't think there's anything up here. I guess we can cool them down a little bit now. Pressures are all set. Everything looks good. So I think it is time to do some sightseeing. And I'll see ya at top of descent. So we're just about at top of descent. We're going to come down soon, but I wanted to talk about our approach and how this is going to work. And if you look to the left, there's a really nice sun reflection off that water. If I can get this just right for you. There, let's look at that. That's awesome. Alright, so this approach, there's no published VOR approach. So in real life, we would simply just take vectors from air traffic control, but we don't have that. So I created my own VOR approach. And what we're going to do is we're going to fly towards the Chicago VOR on DME2. And when this gets to 16, we're not really going to do a 16 nautical mile of DME arc. We're kind of going to do a 16-mile square. Because when I did the 16-mile arc during my practice flight, it brought me way too close because I was so high. It wasn't good. So we're going to go towards the VOR, go due east, kind of make a traffic pattern out there, pretend air traffic control is giving us vectors, and come down to about 4,000 feet at about 16 to 19 nautical miles away from the VOR. Now I know that's very imprecise to give myself a 3-mile leeway, but I want to shoot for 19 nautical miles, but hey, whatever. 16 to 19, that's what I'm shooting for. We really should be about 5,000 feet then. But, oh, hang on, I gotta do some stuff. See, that's the problem with talking at the same time. We gotta get this, what do we need? We need outbound 134. Just a moment, forgive me a moment here. Alright, we're gonna head towards that. And then we will set that up, then I'll keep talking here. I just don't want to miss this. Good thing I was staring at that gauge though. And this should come pretty quickly because we're so close to the VOR. And let's wait for it to move. Whoops, can't see that way. And it's starting to move quickly, so let's do nav lock. Alright, so what was I saying? We're going to go in 16 miles, do like this oval. Let's call it a 16 nautical mile oval. And then we want to get down to about 4,000 feet. 19 nautical miles out, we want to be about 5,000 based on the ILS approach. But I want to do 4,000 because I don't want to be too high and too close like I was during my practice flight. It just wasn't very comfortable. So that's our made-up approach. But now we have to start descending. Now we're just about over speed anyway. That's kind of funny. So how are we going to do this? We are going to use IAS hold. We are going to go down to 4,000 feet. Again, we would be stepped down if we had air traffic control, but we're just going to go down like that. And let's see how our pitch is going to hold us. This plane does not like to come down, as you can see. So I'm just going to let it kind of drift down a little bit with the throttles off. And when it gets closer to 280, I'll engage both Alt or IS hold and Alt select, but I want it to come down in speed a little bit. You can see with the throttles off, we're still pointing up a little bit as it slows down here. But that's just the nature of it. And then once we get established on our descents, we'll get back to more sightseeing. And I'll just do my VOR management without voice. So I don't need to talk about every little detail. It's just the same thing over and over and over. There you can see some cities, and I should know what city these are, I just can't remember at the moment. Alright, we're about 280, so we will do Alt Select. And yeah, that's why is it doing that's different. It normally doesn't, whatever, I'm not going to worry about it. I just know we're on Alt Select right now, and we're going to descend at 280 knots. I will control our vertical speed using the throttle. Alright, so once it gets, you know, between 1500 and 2000, I'm going to use the throttle to control this. As you can see, my next VOR is only 41 miles away. I could probably switch this over now. In fact, you know what, I'm going to, just so it's less to do later here. Let's move this over a little bit, come back here to Alt hold, or heading select, sorry. Switch this to 114.3, and we want to do 132 degrees, which isn't much different. So we'll just kind of go like that. And once we get lined up there, I will engage VOR. I probably could now because it sees already picking it up. So let's do that now. And let's get our next stuff set up. So after here is actually our 13.0. We do have another VOR yet before we do our approach. So 113.0, which means we want to do 113.0 here as well. And we'll immediately do 113 degrees as well as soon as we cross over this VOR. Because look, we're already picking up the next one 86 miles away. So we're descending 1500 feet per minute or so. Everything looks good. I will be adjusting this depending on if we're too high or too low as we get closer. Again, no air traffic control, no XFMC to judge our vertical descent. So, I think we're established for now. As soon as I cross over this in 30 nautical miles, we're just going to switch to the next VOR. And then from there it gets busy. I mean, it's already been busy off camera. But I'm just getting everything ready here. Yeah, then we'll be switching all this at once. And all this at once. And maintaining our rate of descent. And make sure we're at 4,000. And it's going to be the way it goes. And this is where my sim crashed last night. And we're still flying. So good, we made it so far. Some nice cities. I don't think we flew over Madison. Maybe we did. Maybe this is I don't know. I'm going to stop guessing. That sure looks like it could be Madison. No, it isn't. Madison has lakes this way. Whatever. I don't know where we are. We're over Wisconsin somewhere. I really couldn't tell you. I'm not very familiar with Wisconsin because I'm from Minnesota. Alright, back to sightseeing. And I'll catch you when we're ready to make our approach. Alright, we're coming up on 10,000 feet, so I'm going to consider this to be our approach, so to speak. So I'm actually going to come over here and lower this now to 250, so we're actually going to nose up a little bit. Much as I don't want to nose up, we're going to... Whoops, what's going on? I guess it's that way. There we go. And we will get the landing lights turned on, including taxi lights. I guess that's what people have been doing in this aircraft. And what else we gotta do? We gotta... Let's see, where's my list anyway? Auto brakes, which we'll worry about later. We might need them. I mean, not auto brakes. Auto brakes on medium. And then spoilers. We'll arm them now, but we might need them anyway. Gear down, obviously, when we need it, which is way too soon now. And V-card, we're looking at around 128 with flaps 30. I do plan on remembering the flaps this time. Flaps 30 is the second to last one there. And we're about ready to turn towards our last VOR. And then we're just going to be at the mercy of this DME2 right here. So that's how that'll work. And then I will be stepping down our speed as we get closer and closer. Actually, we'll probably go down to 200 over the water so I can start managing flaps and things like that. We are going to go all the way down. You know what? Let me be a little more realistic and keep it at 5. Let me be brave and go to 5,000 feet like we should be at about 19 nautical miles. Alright, so we're about 12 now. It's 11. So let's get this ready to hold and adjust. And we picked up the other VOR. It's right there. In fact, we could probably head towards it now. So we're going to head that to heading select. We are going to go... What am I doing? We're going to go nav for ILS. We're going to stay at 113.9. We're going to come up here. And we're going to point towards at 150, which is exactly where that is. So let's move this guy to 150. And that should be blank because we're using DME2. And I have VOR 1 to 108.9 or 5, which is our ILS. And that is going to be 273 degrees. And oh, so close. 273 degrees. So now what we're going to do is we're going to use our heading. Is that 19 already? I can't see. Yep, okay. We're going to go to 16 and then we'll start making our... Well, 17 will start turning, but we want to be about 16 when we complete this turn. And we're about 8,000 feet now. Let's actually slow down now to 200 knots. Alright, so there's 17, so let's start turning away a little bit. And we want to go for due east, which is 90 degrees. Now, we could look down here, not look at the ground at all, and just watch all of our gauges. Because autopilot won't let us go below 5,000. So all we care about now is keeping this 16 to 19. We'll start around 16, which we are now, so we're going to keep turning. And then we want to be about 19 on approach. So that's how we're going to do this. So we're still within 16. We don't have any decimal points. Oh, we're a little close. So let's keep turning this way. Let's go due east now. Which will be there. And we're still coming down in speed. I guess I can turn throttle down a little bit. And then we'll resume our descent. Then we can start managing flaps over the water. We're just going to keep flying out this way. Let's have a look outside. Now there's Chicago there in the background. And there's our airport. So what we're going to do is we're going to come out, loop around, and line up for 28C, about 19 nautical miles out of 15 or 5,000 feet above. We'll be able to see Chicago. So at least we're a little closer than I wanted to be to the VOR, but we're been consistent. So that's good enough. That's fine. And where are we at? 6,600. We don't have to, let's descend about 500 feet per minute right now, because I do want to get away from the VOR, which are moving away from the VOR now. Let's get our first set of flaps out, because it's going to take a while to get all the way to 30, which means we have to increase our speed a little bit. And then or increase our throttle, sorry, not speed. And as soon as we get down to 5,000, as soon as we get down to 5,000, our ILS hole will kick off. So these flaps came out, and I have to really hit that throttle hard. So let's slow down a little bit more so I can do the next couple stages of flaps here. And of course, it's going to try to nose up to slow down. So I'm using the throttle, does not have auto throttle. Let's get the next stage of flaps out, which means I'm going to need to introduce throttle here. We're going to float a little bit, and we're going to come down hard. So the next stage of flaps. Alright, let's reduce speed now to, well, now we're picking up because we're floating. There we go. Alright, we actually want to reduce this anyway. There we go. I don't want to come in too high. There's 16, 17 nautical miles. Good. So you want to do V plus 5. So 128 plus 5 is 133 plus gust, but we don't have any wind to worry about, so not to worry about that. Alright, so pretty soon IS will kick off when we get to 5,000. Then we'll just use throttle to control our speed, because pitch will be level and VSI will be 0. I'll get our next set of flaps out soon here too. There's 18 nautical miles. We're going to turn in a minute here. And I believe our ILS is ready. Yep. Except it's not reaching out this far. We'll see if it actually reaches. I think I wrote down it reaches like 28.3 nautical miles or something. So that's what it would be in real life, but I have a feeling we're not going to get that this far out. Alright, so now we're going to hold our pitch or our descent to no descent. We'll sit right at 5,000. So now it's up to me to control the throttle so we don't get too slow. I'll slow down a little bit more and introduce more flaps. And we want to go about due south now. And like I said, I don't really know if we're going to pick up the ILS this far out in the sim. In real life we would. We're only 18 miles from the VOR. We should be able to fly out much farther before we start our turn. But I don't know, some more throttle introduced because we're getting really slow now. I'm actually going to put gear down now. A lot more throttle. One more set of flaps because we want 30. Whoops, too much. Let's do 30 now. We should probably wait till final approach before we do 30 flaps, but we're really close to the airport. See that? And that's because there we go. Alright, so we should be able to pick up the ILS pretty soon, and I hope we're below glide slope. There we go. We have glide slope and no ILS, so that's good. In fact, I think, let's see where we at, 4,300 and still descending. I think we will do auto glide slope now, because we can still use our heading bug to make small adjustments. There we go, coming up on 4,000. We're below the glide slope. You have to intercept below the glide slope. So now all I need to do is mess with my throttle. We're at 30 flaps. Gear is down. Spoilers are armed. We didn't need them in flight, which means I did a good job with our descent. There's Chicago ahead of us. Lights are on. So now I just need to keep this plus 5, so just above where we are now. So we can speed up a little bit. We don't need to be at our approach speed till we're actually approaching. I don't know why we're not picking up the ILS though. What's going on here? We're really close to this airport, and we should be really close to 28C. So let's just come in a little closer. And coming up on our glide slope now. We should be turning pretty soon for our VOR, or for our localizer. I feel like I'm making this a lot more work than I have in the past. I'm not exactly sure what's going on. Maybe it's a mental block thing. Cut is Chicago or something. I'm not sure. But I haven't done a flight this big in this aircraft in a very, very, very long time. Again, I fly short flights because my time limits me to that in my real life. I don't have time to make these long flights. This is already pushing my limited time frame here. Alright, so yeah, this approach is way, way closer than I wanted it to be. We have landed at Meigs in a previous video a while back, quite a while back. Looking at the city, and I'm keeping an eye on my speeds here. Only thing I hope is that we pick up the ILS before we're too close to straighten out. Yeah, we'll be fine. We're going to overfly it though, and then it's going to S-curve back because we're so close. We're 8 miles. Look at this. We're 8 miles from the airport because the VOR is over the airport. That makes me nervous. But we should be okay. Just gotta keep our speed good here. I guess we're 10 from the localizer, I guess. But 8 miles from the VOR. So we're gonna overfly a little bit. Hopefully it catches it in time to come back. Again, watching our speed. Good, 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 good. We're close enough, it's okay. See, we overflew. Now, in real life, this would be a big problem because you would have traffic on the other runways trying to land. So, overflying final would be horrible. But, and I'm repeating myself, if we were doing this real life, we would have gone much farther over the lake and come back. So I will hand fly in a moment. I just want to get this lined up. Wow, that's some nice sun glare on our instrument panel, isn't it? That's awesome that it actually does that. We'll just get a little closer here before I take over. I'm going to slow down a little bit, but not too much. Can we see Chicago? Only if we bonk our head. My first time seeing Chicago was when I was in the air. We landed at Chicago O'Hare for a transfer flight, and we took off. We took off at a sharp angle. I could see the city. It looked like a bunch of toothpicks. Still flying autopilot. Alright, spoilers are armed, auto brakes are on, lights are on, everything's gear is down. With 3 green, everything is good to go. Let's kill autopilot and see what happens. Sinking a little bit. Let's keep that speed up. Because if you get into a deep stall on this, you will not recover. We're getting blown a little bit to the left. I believe there are some winds, even if you don't have real world weather on. Coming in a little hot, but I'm not too worried. We'll maintain slightly more than 500 foot per minute descent. Ooh, a lot of semi-traffic there. That's cool. A little more throttle. So one hand on the throttle, one hand on the yoke, as usual. Getting blown that way a little bit. I'm not using my instruments. I'm doing this completely visually and looking at the PAPI. I guess I could look at my glide slope. I'm a little high and I'm a little left based on the ILS, but sometimes it's more fun just to do it visually. And I tend to always be on the left side of runways, don't I? I land that way, I taxi that way. There we go. Alright. Trim down a little bit. For some reason I'm really fighting. I can feel the spring in my yoke, like springing, like going boing boing. That's making me kind of nervous, but alright. If I did this in Pullman with a 2,000 foot approach, or yeah, I'm sure I can do this here. There we go. Watching my speed. Alright, here we go. Perfect approach speed, and we'll kill throttle. We'll float a little bit, not float that much. There we go. Look at that. Couldn't even tell we hit the ground. Oh, that was awesome. And again, that screaming sound is not screaming. That's the spoilers coming out. Reversers down to about 80 knots or so. And I was going to try to use that high-speed exit. Maybe we'll make the next one. I think we can make the next one here. You know, flaps will start coming in. There we go. The 4,000 foot marker right in the middle. I know I'm not on the line. Whatever. Story of my life like usual. Let's slow this thing down here, and we'll get the lights managed and the APU turned on. Yeah, let's see if I can do that. I remember last time. Let's turn this off, and let's hop outside actually. And where are we going? We are going to go that way, turn around. We'll turn the APU on in a moment. But the landing was so smooth I didn't even hear the ground. All I heard were the spoilers extending. And they extend at touchdown, so that's cool. I didn't even hear the wheels touch. That was fun. That probably was one of my better landings, I guess, if you couldn't even tell you touched down. They call that greasing it, which I assume all my viewers know, but in case you don't, that was a greased landing. You don't even know you touched down. But I want to get lined up. I'm going to see if I can start this APU this time without turning off my hydraulics. Those of you who saw the Pullman video. Yeah, I can't really see those yellow lines. There we go. One thing I enjoyed was watching that sun come up. It was below the horizon when we started, and now it's quite high in the sky. Alright, let's see if we can get this APU started without having a problem. So we're just going to start it. We're not going to see how we're turning because of the sun. So which way do we need to go? This way? Oh, that's more that way. Let's go that way. There we go. You can see the sun. That's how I'm flying the plane. I'm just watching the shadows. I think that's all I need to do. That should start now on its own. There we go. Let's turn that off, keep the logo on. Come out here. Oh, look at that. You can see Chicago in the background. That's awesome. I know I'm nowhere near the taxi line over here. It's just so hard to see. I can barely see that. I don't know what's going on. Is it my eyes or the sun, or I'm just not paying attention? I promise I'll get better about staying on the taxi lines. I'm just so nervous in the back of my mind about the sim crashing. I'm just trying to key here as quickly as possible. I guess that's not really an excuse, but in case you're wondering what I'm thinking about while I'm doing this. Alright, so now that we're on the infield, so to speak, I'll try to do a better job about staying on the taxi line. Not sure why my wheel was smoking. We were going straight. Alright, here. I'm also not sure why you can't see the taxi names from this side of the signs. This is default for X-Plane. This is not add-on Chicago O'Hare, so whoever did this for the gateway, that's the version I'm running. If I do have an add-on installed, I'm not aware of it. Obviously that Chicago scenery is an add-on. I believe that's Ted Davis, Chicago. Total frame rate killer, but who cares? It's cool to look at. It's there. It's better than default. Yeah, let's try to pick up some speed here so we get there today. Yeah, and we go here, so we kind of lose our taxi line, and normally we would have a flag person helping us out, which we do not have in the sim, so we're just going to have to cheat. A little bit farther, although that jetway would come out a little bit anyway. A little bit more. There we go. Let's just stop right there. Alright, set the parking brake. Alright, here we are. Sure seems like slow motion when you have a really, really, really large airfield. I like that shadow on the ground too. That's a cool touch. Alright, I floated it a little bit to smooth it out. Let's see if it actually looks the way I felt it when I landed this. There we go. There we go. And the spoilers, no, spoilers go down when the nose wheel touches for some reason. Awesome. I'm really happy with that. I'm not going to do a wing view. I think I've already taken a big enough risk with my problems of crashing. So let's go back to real time and shut this thing down. Alright, we're back inside. We're gonna shut this thing down here. We need to get this stuff over to APU. And let's see. I don't know if I turn the battery on now or what I do, to be honest. Battery's already on. Alright, well, let's kill our throttle here and see if things stay running. They should. There's the APU. We got our packs on. This is probably when we open the doors. I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, I got all of our stuff on, and it's cooling down now so our passengers can get off and they can see what they're doing. So we'll just leave it at that. Alright, hope you enjoyed it, folks. If you found me by accident, please subscribe. And if you're a regular subscriber, thank you for sticking with me even when I make these silly mistakes that I've been making lately. I'll try to work on that, I promise. But anyway, hope you enjoyed the flight. We'll be back to general aviation in the next couple flights, although I do have some more 727 flights planned. I do want to fly this plane a little bit more often, but again, I just don't have the time. So we will see what comes up next on my whiteboard and what gets uploaded next. It'll be a surprise for me as much as you. And I'll catch you on the next one.